They say that there maybe somebody will come down if we told them we're not going to go anywhere until they do, because we know people are dying every day because they're denying care because they want to make more profit. And the CEO of Aetna made $24 million this year, Ron Williams, while people are dying because they can't get the treatment that they need. We're not going to go anywhere. We're not going to go anywhere until we're able to meet with them, because we know that this has to change. People are fed up and abused by insurance companies in this country.
Patients, not profits. Medicare for all. 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 Patients, profits, people die. Medicare for all. Aetna 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 profits, people die. Medicare for all. Patients, not profits. 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 Patients, not profits. Medicare for all. 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 Aetna profits, people die. Medicare for all.
Folks that are in favor of healthcare reform, is that the whole idea?
Medicare for all. So they want to abolish the private health insurance system as well. They want a single payer system.
Democracy at its best. They have the right to express their opinion. I'm okay with it.
Great. What's your name?
Gordon.
Aetna profits, people die. I am the property manager. Aetna profits, people die. Premises unlawfully and without profits, people die. I am now ordering you to leave the premises. Aetna profits, voluntarily, no charges are placed against you. Aetna profits, people die. You will be placed under arrest and charged with criminal trespass. Medicare for all. Aetna profits, people die. Medicare for all. Aetna profits, people die. Medicare for all. Aetna profits, people die. Medicare for all.
Attention, I'm Lieutenant Wolf from the New York City Police Department. You've been warned by Ms. Bartlett to vacate these premises. You may still leave voluntarily if you wish. If you do not leave, you will be placed under arrest for criminal trespass, which is a misdemeanor under the New York State law. You will be fingerprinted and processed.
Medicare for all. Aetna profits, people die. Medicare for all. Aetna profits, people die. Medicare for all. Aetna is a
life-saving treatment for people in critical conditions. And they were arrested. Aetna is the real criminal. We will be back here today at 4 p.m. meeting at Bristol-Myers Squibb and marching to Aetna. We are going to support the brave people who were arrested, and we are going to launch a series of these sit-ins across the country. Next week we're going to be in Chicago, the next week LA and DC, and hopefully many other cities. So go to mobilizehealthcare.org to find out more. I'm going to ask Mark Milano to say a few words on behalf of this action.
We're just here because of the many people we know who die because insurance companies put profits before people's care. The myths about government death panels are a lie. The reality is that the death panels are the people who are paid every day to deny care to people. That's their job. The more people they deny care to, the bigger bonuses they get. We are here to say that we will not rest until every person who needs care in America gets it. And the way to get that care for everyone is Medicare for all. Medicare for all.
These guys who are standing out and looking very blasé are one pink slip away from losing their health care through their employment and having to pay Aetna Cobra coverage, which is a couple of $1,000s a month for a family. And that this touches everybody. And all we're saying here is that we could simply expand Medicare for all, and we would expand Medicare for them. It's a government-run program. I'm on Medicare. I'm not a communist. I'm not a socialist. I have good health coverage. I speak with my friends in Europe who have good health coverage through their government. Nothing wrong with that. Profit motive in health insurance is not the answer. You make money on toasters, not on people's lives, and that's what they're doing now. They're hedging their bets. They knock people off. I worked in a welfare fund of a union at one point, and in that union, it was typically the case that people would call in desperate to get health coverage, and they were dropped because the health insurance company said, you know, sorry, there's some pre-existing condition or something like that. They do that in order to expand their profits. It's not done for the judicious decisions about health care. It's done to expand profits. There's something wrong with making a profit off someone's illness or making a profit off not insuring somebody who's desperately ill. And that's what Aetna does, and that's why we're here today. And that's why we very much resent the fact that they have put $1.4 million a day into defeating health care and in stirring the pot and in stirring the radical fringe with things like death panels. They have death panels now that decide on health care. They really do. They have death panels that say, no, we're going to drop this lady because we don't cover this or that, or we're not going to let them in because they have a pre-existing condition. And they're the ones who make life and death decisions, not for the health or not for the efficacy of a treatment, but rather for profit. That's why we're here today.
My name's Kevin Zeese. That's Z-E-E-S-E. I'm the Executive Director of ProsperityAgenda.us. We were one of the 3 initiating organizations of this action. And this is the kickoff of a national campaign to highlight the real death panels, the private insurance industry, and show how they cannot really be the ones who solve our healthcare problem. They are actually the cause of the healthcare problem. They're a cancer in our healthcare system, and putting a $1 trillion Band-Aid over that problem is not going to solve the problem. It's not going to make it go away. The only thing that can solve it is Medicare for all. That's a single-payer system that works very well for people who are in their 60s and above, and provides them with health care where they have maximum choice. They can choose whatever doctor they want, whatever health care provider they want, and they don't get stopped when the doctors decide with the patient what health care is appropriate. Medicare doesn't say no, but the real death panels, the insurance industry, does say no. There was a study that came out in the last few weeks by California Nurses Association that showed that in 20% of the requests for health care that are approved by doctors, the health insurance industry says no. They say no to doctor-approved requests 20% of the time. One company, it was 40% of the time. And that's the real death panels. It's really ugly to see President Obama and the Democrats rewarding those people with hundreds of billions of dollars in new revenue, coming from working people and taxpayers who don't have enough money to put food on the table. And they're going to be forced to buy these overpriced, crummy insurance policies at the threat of fines. And so what we're seeing here is a giveaway to the insurance industry, not a solution to the health problem.
And what about the drug industry?
The drug industry is going to benefit greatly from this. In fact, you've seen backroom deals made by the White House with the pharmaceutical industry. They're actually supporting this bill. When you have the pharmaceutical industry and the insurance industry on your side, you know you're not really doing real healthcare reform. When you create tens of millions of new customers for big pharma and big insurance, it means that the money's going to be funneling to the top from the working class. The working class people whose wages have been stagnant for years, who are afraid of losing their job, who have no health care, are going to be forced to buy insurance, forced to buy these overpriced pharmaceuticals. There's nothing in this bill that gives Americans a fair price on pharmaceuticals. We're still not going to have prices that are lower than Canada, for example, where you can get the same drugs for less price because they control prices there. Here, we feed the insurance industry, we feed the pharmaceutical industry with tax dollars and working class income, and that's the real shame of this.
And you were one of the Baucus protesters. Can you talk about that protest, what it was about, and what you did?
I was one of the 8 initial protesters before Senator Baucus and the Senate Finance Committee. We protested because there were dozens of people testifying, all from the industry, from Big Pharma, from the insurance companies, and nobody who advocated single-payer health care. The most popular reform among the people was off the table as far as Senator Baucus was concerned. So 8 of us stood up and demanded single-payer be on the table, and we made a lot of progress since then. In fact, single-payer now is on the table. There's Bill H.R. 676, which will be voted on the House floor by the full House of Representatives. It'll be introduced by Anthony Weiner, a Democrat of New York, and it'll result in the first ever vote of all the members of the House of Representatives on single-payer health care. So we're making progress. But the bottom line is, whatever the Congress passes this year in this Obama Democratic plan is not going to solve the problem. They're putting $1 trillion Band-Aid on the cancer of insurance, and that's going to remain, and going to continue to undermine health care, undermine people's individual budgets at home, cause bankruptcies, cause death, cause suffering, and make the government unable to afford health care.
The Democrats seem to be entranced with the public option. Representative Charles Rangel talked repeatedly about, he basically said to single-payer supporters that he was no longer supporting single-payer because he didn't think it could get through, and that basically the public option is unlikely to get through, and that's the best we can do, so we've just got to focus on that. What do you say to that?
The public option's already dead. The versions of the public option that have gotten through the congressional committee so far are so weak they'll be insignificant. They won't take place until 2013. On top of that, only those who don't have insurance can buy it. Those who have insurance are not allowed to buy into this insurance. They're not allowed to buy the public option. So very few people will be able to buy it. On top of that, this is the most absurd thing. The public option under the bills can be run by a private corporation. So they've actually privatized the public option. So an insurance company can actually run the public option. This is a design to fail public option. This is not a design to succeed public option. And so down the road, a few years from now, they're going to tell us, look, the public option failed, government can't run insurance. That's exactly false. What's happening is they're designing a public option that can't work, that's going to be insignificant. We need to step back from this and say to Charlie Rangel and others who know that single payer is the right answer, this is not going to work. You know it's not going to work. Stop kowtowing to the insurance industry and big pharma and stand with the people. People want Medicare for all, improved, expanded Medicare for all, a single-payer system. That's the only way we can cover all Americans, control costs, and give maximum choice to the people.
And what do you say to people who have family, relatives, or they themselves are being denied by their insurance company? What do you recommend they do?
We're urging people who've been denied health insurance to contact us on mobilizeforhealthcare.org. And what we're doing is we're going to be going with those people to insurance companies. So a community will join them to go to the insurance company and demand that they get the health care that a doctor recommended. Because you standing together, we can make this happen, but individuals on their own can't fight these gigantic corporate bureaucracies. So we're urging people to go to mobilizeforhealthcare.org, get involved, sign up, tell us about your friends, your family members, your neighbors who've been denied health care so we can help them to get the health care they need as a stopgap measure and then fight for the real solution, which is Medicare for all.
In 2007, late 2007, there was a case of Natalie Sarkazian, a young woman who was denied a liver transplant by her company, Cigna. Then a whole group of family and friends protested at the health insurance company and actually won. Is that what you're proposing?
Her case is a great example Sarkisian's case is a great example of what needs to happen. People need to stand together to fight for patients. When Michael Moore did his movie Sicko, he had 25,000 people contact him telling him that they had been denied care. 25,000. I also run an anti-war group, VotersForPeace.us, and on our discussion list there was someone who whose wife needed a kidney operation. Luckily she was Medicare age. She got a kidney operation. Then they read in the paper the next day in the Kansas City Star of a case of a person who was not Medicare eligible, who was private insurance eligible, and they denied her the same operation that the Medicare patient got. That's a classic example of what's wrong with our current system. The private insurance industry puts profits before patients. They're going to continue to do that. Their profits have gone up from $2.4 billion in 2000 to $12.7 billion in 2007. During that time period, 45,000 Americans were dying every year because of lack of health care. 1 million people will go bankrupt this year because of a health care crisis, and more than half of those will have health insurance. Bankrupt with health insurance from a health care problem. That's the system we're putting in place, and that's the system that's being propped up by this phony health care reform bill that's really an insurance company giveaway. And it became clear that was going to happen right from the outset. When President Obama held his White House meeting on health care, the first speaker was the insurance company industry. The last speaker was the insurance industry. Single-payer people were not even invited and had to fight to get one person invited who was never allowed to speak. So right from the outset it was obvious this was an insurance company bill, not a people's bill. We need to start over, recognize this is not going to work, and advocate for Medicare for all, a single-payer national health care system.
Money in politics seems to be a huge issue. When we look at like Senator Baucus, he's I think the top recipient of insurance company, health insurance company money in the Senate. And similarly, since 2004, contributions to Representative Charles Rangel have quadrupled by the health insurance industry. And can you talk about that as a trend within Congress and the White House?
There's no question that money in politics is a driving force for the status quo getting more powerful and change becoming less likely on issue after issue, and the healthcare example is a very strong one. What we need to really recognize is that we need to democratize our economy, and that means rather than wealth funneling to the top, this bill will funnel wealth to the top. It'll take money from the working people whose wages have been stagnant and send it back up to the insurance industry and their tens of millions of dollars income. At Aetna, for example, the CEO makes $24 million a year. And that's one of the average for insurance companies is $10 million a year. And that's the problem. These people have too much money and they buy politicians with it. This bill that's being recommended by the Congress is actually going to increase corruption. They'll produce hundreds of billions of dollars in more revenue per year for the insurance industry. That money is being used to buy politicians, to donate to their campaigns, to pay for lobbyists. Right now in Washington, there are 6 health insurance and pharmaceutical lobbyists for every 1 member of Congress. 6 for every 1 member of Congress. That's an example of the problem. So we need to democratize our economy. At ProsperityAgenda.us, which is my organization that's one of the sponsoring organizations of this event, Prosperity Agenda US sees that the healthcare debate is central to people getting control of their lives. If you have healthcare guaranteed throughout your life, a Medicare for all system, you can quit your job. You can move to another job and not worry about losing your healthcare. Your family will still be covered. And so this is a central plank of democratizing our economy, and that's a critical step really to saving the American economy and the American people.